different spots, so hopefully the lighting's going to be better and the sound's going to be better tonight. This evening I've got Janey Holliday joining me, who's a coach that I've worked with for many years. This is coaching, it's international. I can see Janeys joined, so Janey just needs to request. Where is she? So Janey, I think you need to do that. Janey is a food, fitness and mindset coach, and she also coaches small business owners as well. And she should be joining the call now. Hello.
Hello. Technology new. I've never done an Insta Live. It's so hopefully it's working.
Well, I just thought, why not? Let's give it a try. And it's an excuse for me to have a chat with you, basically.
Absolutely. We had a good natter, so yeah, absolutely. And hopefully we'll be able to inspire lots of people that watch this.
Exactly. Well, I know, I was thinking, who's work which is kind of complementary to the thinking stuff on my upcoming course, and you to mind, because I swear every time I'm writing up about cognitive bias or arguments in our head, I think, this is what Janey says. It's just like a label for it, essentially. So there's so much crossover in what we do in terms of perception and our self-belief and all that stuff. So, how have you been?
6 weeks, you mean?
Wow. I imagine it's kind of like this.
Yeah, it is. It's very much like that. And I have to say, being a mindset coach is, I think, really helpful at the moment, for sure. It's constant thought management, isn't it? Just really thinking about how you're responding to things, all these challenges and changes. It can, be different every single day. Like you, I've got children. I'm trying to work around them. I'm a single mum as well, so it's just all been a bit crazy. But yeah, I mean, it's about looking at what you can do. You've done my best program. It's always looking at what is it that you can, where can you put your focus, looking at all the thoughts that you're having and whether they're helpful ones or whether they're ones that are really holding you back or causing more stress. And I think it's been a time where I've had to really check in with myself, actually, really pull myself through this and remind myself that, most of the things that we're dealing with, it's not what happens, it's how you respond to them. So yeah, there's been lots of strategies being put into place. So
one of the things I really, encourage people to do through my course with building time for reflection and stuff is trying to find ways to help yourself think. As you always talk about, you're caught up in the moment, you're caught up in the emotion, you just need to kind of take a step back. What helps you to think clearly, to maintain sanity, essentially?
Well, I can give you a really good example that happened today, actually. This morning in my house was just utter chaos. I mean, I can't tell you, it was, my back of house was pretty full on. And I could feel spiraling, and I was like, oh my God, I've got this stuff to do today, and I've got this, and I've got this, and I've got this, and I'm doing this right, I'm doing that right. And it's like a thought spiral. And I just took myself in the shower, and within about 8 minutes, I got my kids to watch TV. It was like, right, let's just regroup everything. It's that space. You need that space to just really remind yourself that you can do stuff, that you can deal with things, that you can get through your day. So in terms of clearly thinking, at a point of or a moment of stress or chaos, the thoughts go, the speed of the thoughts go up, you start to have all those doubts that come in, the negative voice can start to come into play. So it's about giving yourself space. So that's just a silly example of how, in the moment of chaos this morning, it was just, right, let me just give myself a few minutes in the shower to regroup my thoughts. But in the last few weeks, I mean, the things that I've really... What's that?
I was going to say, the shower is such a good place to think. One of the things you do is to think, where's the best thing, but the shower or the toilet?
Yes, no, absolutely. And I think as well, it was about, I could feel, and look, I'm a mindset coach, I know this stuff, but, it's difficult times, so it really is putting stuff into practice, everything that I preach to my clients. But now this morning, it was a bit like you're playing the horror movie version of your day. To the thoughts are spiraling, you're telling yourself you've got no time, you've got all these things to do, you're starting to question yourself, all of this stuff. And actually it was like, how do you want this day to pan out? Take a big deep breath, remind yourself that you can do this, about at the end of the day, like what I will have achieved, because I will have done it. It's just that you get caught up, don't you? And that's when it all kind of falls to the wayside. I think as well, the other thing that's been crucial for me, and I know it's for you as well, it's just, I mean, I the last 6 weeks without exercise. I just couldn't have. It's my at 2:30 this afternoon. I've time blocked an hour's kickboxing, because I need to get the cortisol out of my body, the overload, if you like. I always find that after exercise, you've got that clarity, haven't you?
Absolutely. And some of the stuff that was popping into my head as you were saying all that is the difference between our system 1 and system 2 thinking, which is something that I talk about a lot these days. But the system 1 is those automatic, biased thoughts, and then the system 2 is that more logical, rational, oh, hang on a minute, let me think, putting your phone away kind of thinking that you do in the shower, or maybe when you go for a walk and you get that clarity. So that, really applies to kind of
it is. It's about, I teach my program, which is about you can choose to choose to react like very quickly, very negatively, or you can take a moment to just pull yourselves together, just as you explained, and I want to respond to this, respond with that calm approach. And one of the things I teach as well is that David and Goliath battle in your mind between the subconscious. I find certainly with a lot of my clients as well at the moment, it's so easy to listen to those self-limiting beliefs and to that toxic negative thought pattern. And like you say, just give yourself that time to just go, hang on a second, which one am I going to choose today? I've got a choice. I can choose to feed the fears and feed the stress and focus on all the crap things, or I can just make a decision that I'm the opposite. And the two different results that come out of you making a choice, which way you're going, it is absolutely huge.
Yeah, and do you know, yesterday I was on a live with Sarah Blake, a mediator and conflict strategist, and she was saying some very, very stuff about, if you are feeling heightened emotions, just stepping away, taking a moment, whether it's on social media or with someone in the house who's, doing that thing for the 100th time.
Yeah.
And just taking those moments to try not to explode. But
I think the other thing that's been really important is about I've had to let go of a lot of things. I've had to let go of Messi, to let go of certain things that I've normally been doing because I don't have the time. Rather than fight it, it's about going, actually, just can't do these things. And just going back to your question about how to, get more clarity and thinking clearly, like I'm climbing into bed at 7:30 in the evenings because I need it, because my days are so long and so full on, juggling work and 3 kids by myself. But again, it comes down to so at the moment, sleep for me is like one of the most important things that keeps me nice and relaxed, because I wake up in the morning and I feel a bit more refreshed. I've got a better chance at making better thought choices. Myself, you've done my program. I say to myself constantly, you've done a really good job. I walk past and I high five myself past the mirror. You did a good job today. You have to let it go, and you have to tell yourself that you've done enough. Yeah, like, so I'm often saying to myself today, like, well done, like that's it now. Don't need to do any more. It's time to chill and time to relax.
Because there's always more to be done, right? As a business owner, as a parent, as a human being, you're like, oh, the to-do list could just go on endlessly.
Absolutely.
So you go and say, your sleep is more.
Yeah.
I need to get better at that. Going to bed.
When you're interviewing people in the UK at lunchtime.
Well, it's only, what is it now? It's 7:45. It's not too bad. I'll go straight to bed after this. Now, other stuff I was gonna. How do you? We've talked about it already, I suppose. How do you manage that you tell yourself? Our sort of self-talk and our narrative is so important to what we achieve, what we do every day. So how do you manage it, Janey?
So what I've got really good at is acknowledging when we have a negative voice. We all have the self-limiting beliefs. I've learned over time to manage those and quash them and override them. but it happens to everybody. So to give you an example, like 6 weeks ago when lockdown kicked in, I had a strategy for my business. I had 3 kids were in school full time, and I was, in this great place. And then bang, everything changed, and I was, suddenly it was like, oh my god, have I got enough cash flow in my business? I've got to adjust this, I've got to do that, and you go through like the thoughts start to spiral. So you start playing like the horror movie version. What's going to happen in the next month, 6 months, or whatever? So you start hearing those stories being played, and you start to and this is about observations. It's really learning to observe your thought patterns and observe what you tell yourself. So 6 weeks ago, I was telling myself on a very subconscious level, it's going to fall apart, everything's going to go under, what am I going to do? Like, this is going to be a nightmare, how am I going to cope? Like, my business is, start playing these version movies, you start to visualize it all. I started to lose confidence. Oh my god, like, how am I going to do this? Then it was, oh my god, my kids are off school, so I've got lack of time now. I really don't know what I'm going to do. And then it was just like everything felt like it was falling apart. So when you feel that things are falling apart, you're losing control, if you like. It's about taking a big deep breath, finding that space like we just talked about, and just taking stock and saying, okay, how can I reframe this? So every time we look at a set of circumstances, we'll look at it from a default lens perspective to start with. So this is my default. This is going to be difficult. This is going to be stressful. You have the capacity as a human being to go, maybe I could look at this from a different angle. Maybe I could see this in a different way. Okay, like for me, this is really important. I looked at what was the worst case scenario. So what was the absolute worst case scenario? That would be all 3 kids being off for 6 months, right? So it was like, okay, what would that look like? What would that actually look like? I mean, it would be difficult, but I could get through it. So once I started with that, it was like, okay, now let me, rather than telling myself, because this is what you do, tell yourself your business is falling apart and this plan is all, been thrown up in the air. What can I do with that plan? What can I do with my business? What do I need to, this is really important as well, I spent a few days not making any decisions. So it's just like, I don't have to make a decision today. I've got nothing in the month. Like, I don't need to make a decision today. So it was about with my values, with what I'm good at, with what I'm capable of, what I can do in my business, what I can do in the hours. Totally shifted my strategy in my business. But it's meant that my confidence has gone up, because when you've got clarity, you then have confidence. When you know you're doing things that are authentic, okay? So I wasn't afraid to go, hey everyone, here's my online bootcamps, they're brilliant, they're on sale for 99.6, get it out there. Business people are afraid to put their stuff out there at the moment. Because, oh my god, it was about saying, right, what can I do? What can I do that's authentic? What can I, and I do run an online business, so I'm, keep me lucky if you like, but obviously still need to work. But it was really looking at what I could do differently, and telling myself that I had the capacity to get through this. And another little story, you'll know this, is that 10 years ago, in 2010, my old business in London nearly went under in the recession. I'd just become a mum to my twins, not even 2. I had no family in the UK, and I thought my whole life was over. Pretty much like a lot of people are feeling at the moment. But it was the best thing that ever happened to me, because I retrained as an online coach in the evening, and then here I am 10 years later with a business that I love. I moved, so it's always about, when you're reframing, is looking at, you don't know the end of your story yet. It's so caught up with where we are that some people, I've been helping a woman, Honor, as you know, like, she's got a G's business in France, but she's doing something else now because she can't do that business. So it's, and none of us know the end of the story. We get so narrow, it's that tunnel. It's still going to be awful. This is, why is this happening? But it's just going, okay, well, maybe this is going to be really good. Maybe this is really exciting, and just like switching it up, basically.
Absolutely. I'm just like nodding, like, yes, clarity means confidence. You're clear on your thoughts. I have this cute little dice that I use for the decision-making workshop, and it's the same kind of thing for problem solving as well. But looking, what's the worst case scenario? What's the best possible outcome? What's a kind of very logical approach to it? What your values say you should do? 10 years time, what will you wish you would have done at this? What else is there? Oh, what's your gut feel say? And that's a tricky. I think a lot of it touch with our gut feeling on stuff. And there's one more. Oh, and creative and alternatives. So I was really chuffed with myself the other day. I was like, how can we get more space? And I was like, right, Airbnb. Is there anywhere close by? How much is it? And they were actually quite cheap because tourism's screwed, for want of a better word. And I was like, we could just get an Airbnb around the corner. Pete was like, no, we're not doing that. And luckily here, the kids have gone back today. They were both back at day. Yeah, just looking at the different perspectives, different angles on it. The other one that I've used as well is, what would your superhero do, or what would someone you really look up to do? And if it's food or fitness related.
I just did a webinar in my food and fitness group, and Facebook Live, and I said at the end that if you can't, it's all about temptation. I said, if you can't do it, just imagine there's a cardboard cutout of me standing in front of you. What would Janey do? It's really helpful. I think that's really important when you're looking at your thought pattern and your thought process, is to ask yourself, this is something I do all of the time, not in terms of teaching, but also myself, is it fact or is it fiction? So when you're thinking about stuff, or you're, making assumptions mental, you're often taking your thoughts as fact, and not fiction. Your brain can't tell the difference between what's real and imagination. So, when you start to observe your thoughts, and I know you teach all of this, it's about questioning whether it's, and you can feed the good fiction into your mind, or you can, feed the negative fiction. The choice is yours. The brain responds. So, again,
where's the evidence? Your best Q&A last year. Where's the evidence? You're like, where is the evidence? So the evidence is completely different. If I'm having a look at, I don't know, feedback, testimonials, I go, there's my evidence.
Exactly. And well, Beth, like a lot of people are in what's called the anxiety gap at the moment. So they're worrying about things that haven't happened yet. The brain can't process that information. So that's where those feelings of stress and worry come from. So just as I was saying, at the beginning of lockdown, I was rolling that film, and I was in the anxiety gap. What ifs? Your brain can't answer the what ifs; it shuts down. So it was about, okay, what can I do in the next week? What are the thoughts I can think that will make me feel more empowered rather than filled with stress? Like those kinds of things. And it's you teach this as well, but it's constantly looking at the choices you're making with the thoughts. And if you've got feelings, it's asking what thoughts are you focusing on are giving you those feelings, and then you can change them.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And it's empowering people. Like, once you realize that, it's so empowering, isn't it? You know you can do anything, essentially.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So the other question that I threw at you was about how you do this in your business. So how you help people change their stories or change perceptions in your business. I've got an example. I remember you talking about a long time ago about walking down the high street in like Clapham Junction or something. You're on the phone to your friend and you're effing and blinding because not effing and blinding, but you're really excited. Some naughty words were said. And the other way was like, it's the end of the world. Look at this girl loudly.
The core of what I teach is that there's no such thing as right or wrong. It's just different. So you can explore that in lots of different ways. So before you mention that, I'm going to talk about comparison, which I'll come on to in a second. But that example, so this is where I like to use the F word. Not around my children, but I do. It's a word. My co-coach on Best, we've got very similar values. We love using that word. If you ever heard us together, you'd be having to put, earplugs in. So I could be walking down the street, and I was then just chatting to a friend. I was like, oh my god, you're effing joking, like not in an aggressive way, just in a fun way. Didn't think I was being that loud. And then the old lady walking down the street, who's brought up in a completely different generation, who probably had her mouth washed out with soap, if she used that word, is looking at me and sort of saying and thinking, oh my god, who she is, this awful woman that's That's a really good example of how you can think something okay and somebody else it's vastly different. And this is where we have to be very careful. And I've done a lot of one-to-one sessions in the last 6 weeks with clients who are comparing themselves to other people, or comparing themselves, with what they were doing compared to 6 weeks ago, those kinds of things. So it's about looking at when you, like, a lot of people make other people right and them wrong. Okay, so you don't see someone's back of house. You have your back of house, you have your value system. You see other people's front of house, don't know the back of house. You're doing that. Oh, how is that person doing that? But actually, that might not be what you need to do, or it might not be based on your value system, or you might be making, without even realising it, that somebody else is right and you are wrong. So it's that perception of yourself that you are I'll give you an example. I'm something at the moment, okay? Because I've only got capacity. My twins go to a fairly easygoing school. We're not in a plus system. I'm also, for me, academic A-star grades are not the most important thing. I want my kids to, be, I want them to be happy and healthy and things. So I'm not killing myself at the moment with homeschooling. Whereas I've got clients who are coming to me just giving themselves such a hard time because they're looking at what other people are doing and they're making what they're doing right and what they're doing wrong. And it's like, hang on a second, what's important to you? So right now, it's not vastly important for me to be pushing my boys as hard as they can. They're bright. What I have done, some of the homework that's come in from the school, I haven't even managed to print it out to fit the pages. I haven't got time to reset stuff. We're not doing that bit of homework. Well, we can do some spellings because that's their weak point. So it's checking in with, what do you need to do? What's important to you? Also, not worrying what other people think, the core of what I teach, right? So if you stop worrying about what other people think, again, going back to the example with the phone in Clapham Junction, all those many moons ago, pre-children, that person might think that I'm rude or whatever, but actually, that's not, that's their perception of me based on their map of the world, based on their value system. So it's so important, particularly at lockdown, but also just with the exacerbation of social media, to make sure that you're not, the perception of you is not that you're wrong and somebody else is right. It's about acknowledging of the world, different, experiences, different environments, different choices.
And then I move the lighting.
So I'm not choosing at the moment to push my boys, and I never do. I hate homework. Don't do homework normally anyway. Because I'd rather be watching a business program on TV teaching my kids about business and stuff, because I'm an entrepreneur. I have a belief, and it goes down to beliefs, right? I have a belief that you can be a vastly, wildly successful person without being top of the class, because
God. Yeah. From someone who's the geek, I was the geek at school, top grade, but it changes, doesn't it? And I think learn more about the world and stuff, like you say, you don't need to get the A stars or whatever to be successful. If anything, those people who have learned to follow the rules, yes sir, yes miss, do exactly tendencies that can really work against you as you get older. You're like, no, you have to just say, fuck it, I'm going to try it, or I'm just going to do this, and it doesn't matter what the teachers or whoever's in authority is saying to you. And that stuff about just being yourself and stuff, where I live here in Perth is like a little community, and then my neighbours, they're in their 90s, and I love talking to them, because I think as you get older, Jill's joined as well. Hello, Jill.
Just as you were using the F word, perfect timing. She must have known.
Not caring as you get older, you care less and less and less what other people think, and I've really felt that step change in the last 5 years, and it's just really liberating to go, actually, no, what's right for me, or what do I want to do? You stop looking around. I got a tattoo last year because I stopped caring. I got a tattoo.
Brilliant.
So I was just like, fuck it, why not?
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah. And it's about defining your your own rules. I've had, it's really interesting, I've had 2 coaching sessions in the last 10 days. WhatsApp groups. In what stress levels are really high, because if it's all like what have other people think and like everything, and it was like, do you want to be in this group? Do you value these people? Do you trust them? Do you like them? Like, you know, and I said to them, what would you do if you didn't care what they thought? And it was like, oh, actually, I'd leave. I'm like, there's your answer. And I think now more than ever, it's really important to check in with what is important to you. You know, what does success look like to you? What does work-life balance look like to you? You know, it's about always looking at what is it, especially in our lockdown. What is it at uni? What is it that you're vastly different for everybody? So it's always about, you know, and it also things like beyond that, like what makes your eyes light up? What makes your soul shine? You know, what your soul shine? What's kind of, you know, lifts your spirits, brings you magic. All of those kinds of things. Like if you can connect with yourself, and this is why it's important to give yourself space. Some people, it has given them some space to check in with those values. So yeah, but I mean, comparison is something, you know, just I guess just a tip to share with everybody is, again, thoughts spiraling out of control, because often we're mind mapping as well, like we're making up in our heads what other people are doing in their lives. So it's really important that you stop and question that you don't have a perception of somebody else that's based on, you know, you're just telling yourself this, you've made it all up. And also the other thing on that, spinning it one last time, is that often the perception you think people have of you is wildly different to what it is, but you tell yourself these things. So it's incredible, isn't it, the way our minds work?
It's funny, just before we came on, I was like, right, I'm going to review some of my content, like cognitive biases and stuff, because I knew it would apply. And there's this beautiful codex, which I'm a bit obsessed with, because someone's a way to put all the different biases, and if you go to the Wikipedia page about biases, it's like just hundreds and hundreds. But there's one down here. Yeah, we imagine... we think we know what other people are thinking, and there's a whole bunch of different biases to do with that, and it's completely about you. I think I know what you think, that you think this about what I think, and we don't, unless what they're thinking, and our way to our tendency to fill in those gaps when we are lacking information. And that be about a belief about you should download a government app or whatever it may be. We just like make up stories in our head to fill those gaps, or to comfort ourselves, I suppose, a little bit.
Justify our choices, isn't it? Or to justify the reason that we're saying something, doing something, thinking something.
Yeah. So, and you sort of track back, oh well, this was obviously the right choice because this, and that confirmation bias, when we look back on things or looking forward as well, oh, it's definitely going to happen. And so all these people making patterns around, and I kind of did it too, like Mother Nature is telling us and things like that. You know, there's a reason why COVID-19 has happened, and like there's some magic in the air that's made the world stop and think, which are some lovely stories, but you know, it's actually just kind of random and I don't know if you've seen that Bill Gates TED talk from, I think it's like 2008 or something, where he essentially describes what happened over the last 2 months. But at the beginning of his talk, he said, you know, this happened, and there's going to be travel lockdowns, and lots of people get ill, people will get sick, but not so bad that everybody dies because it needs to spread quickly. And all of these predictions that he made, you're like, oh God, it was, you know.
But nobody would listen to it back then because it was all like, you can't see it, right? There's no evidence. And we couldn't have imagined it even at the start of the year, right? It's real toast new year. Like if somebody had said, oh, by the way, at the end of March, this is going to happen. So,
That's one too, where you just go la 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 la, and so when all the governments are seeing what's happening in China, and you know, we did that in my household. You look at the streets are empty and all the people on lockdown, and we go, oh, that's that's and then suddenly just that shock and the grieving process that I think a lot of us went through.
But I think, Bethel, as well, like the lesson here for everybody is about, we don't know what's going to happen. Assuming that everything's just going to return and everyone's going to be able to get on a plane at the end of July and do this holiday and that holiday. And I think we've got to approach all of this and use our mind is to just really trust ourselves to be able to end by keeping our thoughts in a good place and just dealing with the things that we can control and just see how this unravels. Because you see people go, well, the first round of Spanish flu killed 3 million, and then the second wave hit, like, I can't remember what the exact figure was, 12 million, something like that. Yeah, well, just so you say, that won't happen here. You don't know. So it's a time where I've been saying this all month. Mindset is everything, and having clarity in your thinking is really key. Because if you're in a good place, challenges. I mean, I'm referred to as plot twist queen, and this is a plot twist, right? So it's I'm helping a lot of people deal with these changes, and the best way that you can do that is get yourself in a good place. Is to question just the things you teach, like what you're taking in, what you're having conversations about, like whether what the things that you are thinking is that how you want to be thinking, all of the things that you teach, which is obviously different but similar to what I do. And I think it's the time to trust yourself as a human being that we are able to get through things, but it might be different. And the people are those that can think out of the box, who are perfectionists, who want to control everything, and those that can be adaptable and flexible. And that's a mindset, right?
Absolutely. I mean, yeah, I think I got back in touch with you about a month ago because it was like, right, I know I need to work on mindset, and I really appreciated doing some work with you back then, and always, seeing things pop up, just those little reminders. There was one a couple of days ago about, taking it at your own pace. My followers, and they're like, yes, get out of my head. You go, it's because we all have these patterns and we all have these kinds of thoughts, and a lot of the time we don't admit them. So it's really nice, honest, and like you said, you're very good at sharing your back of house. I think you said to me on that call that you'd eaten some lemon curd or something random.
I haven't had that for 13 years. I was working at my mum and dad's house, it's empty, and I found it, and I was like, it was a stress response. It was a total stress. It was 5 weeks ago. It was just it was a comfort food. I was at my mum and dad's, I was trying to do a couple of hours work. Oh, that makes me feel good. And then after 2 days of that, I was like, no, it doesn't make me feel good. What are you doing? I always do that imaginary slap round the face, like, come on, sort yourself out, Janey. That's, again, like a really good example of how I respond to my unhelpful negative voice. Yeah, but it's and you were just struggling because you just all that kind of, oh my god, like, how do I pull my business? What do I do business wise? I've got the kids off, and it was like, well, you've got a choice, right? Let's open the thinking. What are your choices here? What are your options? You could either take a break for 3 months, or like you answered your own questions. It was about actually letting me see what I can do, which is exactly what a lot I'm working with at the moment are fighting. I've got to do this, I've got to do that. No, you don't. You have a choice. You can pause in your business, or if you need to do something and you want to do something, it's what are the hours that you've got and how can you do it? And then guess what? That lowers the stress. You then start to focus on the action points that will help you, rather than the unhelpful thought that totally hold you back.
You know what, Janey? It's actually been my best month in business, and I feel bad for people who are struggling, but also like shocked and but pleased that that's what's come out of this, because like you said, it makes you really consider what you want to do, and done some different stuff, and so it's kind of testament to problem solving, I suppose, that we're good at problem solving, and we're both doing okay, like 5 weeks, 6 weeks into this. So
talking about you, Annie. Yes, I mean, but Beth and I shared on this mindset group I run. Actually, actually because for the last 6 weeks they were up 244% on last year. So actually, from someone like me, normally Easter holidays, because most of my clients have gone to school-age children, I can't really do write off usually. But it was about looking at the beginning of April and thinking, right, what are I said this to you in our session, what are the most important things you can do in your business over the next 4 weeks? And that's exactly what I did. Really think about clever choices, not emotional panic ones, but let's remove all the emotion, remove all the stress. What most important thing you do in your business in the next, exactly what I did. And I'm doing exactly the same thing now going into May. And I still haven't decided. I'm just on this day today where I can't quite decide. It's like, give myself some space, make the decision tomorrow, those kinds of things. You can keep calm and keep that clarity that you talk about, that clarity in your thinking, and be clever, and remove all the thoughts and the stressful thoughts, then the world really is your oyster. It's a great time to be in a small business and to be online as well.
Yeah, absolutely. As am I, making some new changes, says Jill. She's just added that. And so Honor has joined us.
Yeah. She was on a live herself at 12:30, so when we finish, go.
Oh, she must have just finished then. All right, I'm going to wrap things up there and let you get on with your day. I know you've got a million things to do. But thank you so much for joining me for that chat. And that's up on my stories, and I'll record it and send you the thing as well. So, yeah.
I do loads of Facebook Lives, if you know, but I've never done Insta. So anyway, here I am. It's done now.
We're all learning.
On Friday, actually, at 1:30 UK time. So.
I'll try and catch.
Yeah, do. Yeah, cool.
Enjoy your day.
Yeah,
Bye.
nice talking to everyone. Bye, Bethan.
Bye.